Recently, you may have heard a news report about bikers converging on the town of Sturgis for the biggest motorcycle rally you've ever seen. The main objective of these news stories, I feel anyways, is to use bikers to scare the general public once again. Welcome, new subscribers. Welcome back, returning subscribers. I do greatly appreciate you being here. If you're new to my channel, my name is Dawn, aka Irish Bob's sister, and I've been working at Harley-Davidson dealerships for over 10 years now. So if you want to know more behind the scenes of the motor company, what it's like to work at a dealership, or motorcycles and the culture behind it in general, then you should hit that subscribe button right now. So going back to the mass media and bikers. In this instance, I feel it's to scare the general public into doing something that they might not necessarily want to do. In this case, it's to get the vaccination against COVID-19. Unless they've already gotten the vaccine, in which case it's just another news story that paints bikers in a bad light. And I'm getting sick of it. This video is not to ask you to vaccinate, nor is it meant to give you any reason why you shouldn't. I am a very firm believer in that you should be doing your own research and making up your own minds about any situation, be it COVID, the vaccination, wearing a helmet, smoking a cigarette, or even putting on a seatbelt. Personally, I did do the research and I did get the vaccine for myself because I believe in the science, as well as I knew it was going to make travel a lot easier. And again, I'm not here to debate that side of the news story. If you've gotten the vaccine, great. If you haven't, I'm not going to try and convince you to get it. Presumably, you're a grown-ass adult. You're going to make up your own mind however you want. As long as you're being kind and not pushing your beliefs on anybody else, then that's fine with me. So no, this video is about the way, ever since 1947, bikers have been getting bad press, and about exploring the ways we can maybe turn that around. In case you're unfamiliar with motorcycling history, they've been around since the early part of the 20th century. Motorcycles were used in the fight against Pancho Villa and in both world wars. In fact, it was Corporal Roy Holt who was the first American into Germany after World War I, and he rode in on a Harley-Davidson. Early on, riders would organize long-distance rides to events like motorcycle races or endurance runs. These bikers got noticed, often camping on the way out and on the way back. And because of that, they came to be known as gypsy tours. The main purpose of these tours, what we call today as a rally or bike week, was to promote friendship between riders, and they would often have field games, hill climbs, racing, and good old-fashioned riding through the scenic countryside. My personal favorite. After World War II, more than a few soldiers came home and then started back up going to the gypsy tours once again. Veterans were trying to adjust to life back in the U.S., looking for adventure and excitement. In July 1947, the AMA, that's the American Motorcycle Association, was holding a gypsy tour in the tiny town of Hollister, California. The town welcomed the bikers, in part because the rally was a boom for the local economy, especially after the war. But what the AMA didn't realize was just how many bikers were going to show up. There were so many that more than a few were sleeping in the streets and in the park. Of course, there was also drinking and fighting, and the small police force was overwhelmed, trying to use tear gas to break up the fights. By the end of the event, about 60 people were injured and 50 or so had been arrested for being drunk and disorderly. Most people who lived in Hollister at the time didn't think the bikers had done anything wrong. They'd just been riding up and down the streets, not really doing any real damage. It wasn't until the San Francisco Chronicle had run 2 articles in their paper using such words as havoc, and pandemonium, and terrorism. While they did report the facts, reporters also exaggerated the actual events greatly. The photographer Barry Peterson, since he had arrived after most of the bikers had left the town, posed the now infamous drunken biker picture with Eddie Davenport of Tulare, California. And both articles even though they didn't include the pictures Peterson had taken, had painted bikers in a bad light. Despite this, the Chronicle's articles didn't create mass panic, at least not until Life magazine got a hold of both the pictures and the articles and ran the story in their magazine a few weeks later. That is what brought national attention to the story and a negative opinion of bikers as a whole. Fast forward nearly 75 years later, and we see not much has changed. There are still large bike rallies that take place throughout the U.S. Laconia, Daytona, Laughlin River Run, Milwaukee, and of course, Sturgis, to name a few. There are also rallies across the globe. Elephant-Treffen, sorry if I mispronounced that, Thunder Sprint, Glemsec 101, the Iron Ore Rally, and the Rally of Discovery, again, to name just a few. And just like back then, rallies and bike weeks can be a big boom to the local economy. That money goes way beyond the bars, restaurants, and hotels. I'm talking souvenir shops, tourist attractions, and drug, liquor, and grocery stores. It all trickles down to pay staff, vendors, utility bills, rent, and taxes. As we all know, tourism did take a big hit last year with most everything canceled. Despite that, the town of Sturgis decided to go ahead and host the rally last year as well as this year. And this year I've heard some people complain, some non-biker people complain, how selfish we are to go ahead and party on as usual. Whoa, 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 guys. First off, as I said, these rallies bring a lot of people, which means a lot of money gets pumped into the local economy, way more than during the Christmas season. Second, they are taking precautions, moving crowds outside for more room, sanitizing stations, etc., just like a lot of the other venues. And before you say, but Sturgis didn't require proof of vaccinations, well, you're right on that point. However, Sturgis is a town. It's not just one single venue like Lollapalooza. So that becomes a little bit more difficult to enforce. Third, comparing bikers to concert goers isn't realistic at all in my point of view. Concert goers maybe go to one or two events a year. Bikers live and breathe their passion for 7 to 12 months, depending on where we live. Do you know that saying, if I have to explain, you won't understand? Well, there's a helmet sticker that says, if I have to understand, don't bother to explain. And I feel this is how the mass media views it when it comes to bikers. They're so busy putting their story together, they don't care to get the whole story, just the part that will shed just the right amount of light so that the viewer only sees what they want them to see. And yes, this goes for both the left and the right. Remember, mass news media is a for-profit business. The more people who are watching, the more money they can charge for advertising. So then my question is, how do we bikers, we motorcycle enthusiasts, turn that around? How do we get the news media to be better at reporting all the facts? Can we get the news to quit the conjectures and the exaggerations? One way would be for us to question the story behind the story. If the story is about bad bikers, why are bikers bad? How are we different than the thousands of people who attend a 3-day rock concert? Is getting the general public afraid of bikers a benefit or a deterrent? A benefit for whom? A deterrent against what? Or maybe the answer is to just quit watching that particular style of mass news media. I'm not saying quit watching the news altogether, because I know we need to know what's going on, but to just stop watching or clicking on that particular style of news, where they end presenting the facts, but then go into questions like, if that were to happen, what would that look like? Because that's no longer news. That becomes somebody else's opinion and conjecture. Or perhaps we should just keep the bad boy reputation. Do we let them tell their stories and we just go on doing our own thing? That's another possibility. Nothing says that we have to react at all. And that's something else to keep in mind. Obviously, it's not an easy thing to fix. nor will it be fixed overnight, if at all. Although, if you're as fed up as I am, I'd love to hear any thoughts that you might have. All I ask is that you keep it decent and please be respectful of other people's views. And that's it for this week, guys. Until the next time, please be safe, be kind to one another, ride when you can, and have fun.